Well, good evening and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news. We're broadcasting live and then available on demand. We're available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, and of course YouTube and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It's Tuesday, October 11th, 2022, and we're live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, Al Ferguson, and this evening we bring you the news of and a perspective representing the LGBTQ+ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ+ evening news show. Whatever happens unique in the LGBTQ+ news, you'll see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ+ community.
We are part of the world's largest LGBTQ+ media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 37 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community.
Let's welcome first anchor Dr. Tai Houser. He's an associate professor of English and Humanities at Broward College. Additionally, he teaches extended periods of time at international colleges in China, India, Spain, and Bolivia. Good evening, Tai.
Good evening, everybody. Let's welcome anchor Jeff Oliverio. Jeff is a founder and treasurer of the Hollywood LGBTQ+ Council, a unique community civic organization in Greater Hollywood. The council will be hosting the second annual My Hollywood Pride on January 29, 2023. He's also the chair for the 2022 National LGBTQ Task Force Gala, Red, White, and You, being held October 22, 2022 at Miami Beach Convention Center. The gala, along with its sister event, Winter Party Festival, has given back more than $3.3 million to local LGBTQ community organizations. Good evening, Jeff.
Good evening and happy to be here. Let's welcome anchor Tarek Turjman. Tarek is a queer Guatemalan Palestinian comedian living in Miami. He is an instructor, improv actor, and producer at Villain Theater, where he hosts his own late-night talk show, Tonight with Tarek. He has opened for Ilana Glazer, Carlos Santos, Francisco Ramos, and Brittany Brave. This past year, he produced Gay Festival's first comedy stage and headlined Villain Theater's annual Pride Comedy Festival, No Fear, We're Queer. Good evening, Tarek.
Thank you, Jeff. Now let's welcome anchor Glen Weinzimer. Glen is the founder of the Smart Ride, an annual 2-day, 165-mile bicycle ride from Miami to Key West. The Smart Ride has raised and returned over $13.9 million to AIDS and HIV service organizations across Florida in the last 18 years. Glen also owns Bona Italian restaurant in the heart of Wilton Manors. Bona Italian holds weekly gift bag Mondays. In the past 4.5 years, Bona has raised and returned over $50,000 to help local organizations meet their mission. Welcome, Glen.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ+ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Tuesday, October 11th, 2022.
Well, let's begin by queering up gay culture. Did Madonna come out gay just in time for National Coming Out Day? Well, Madonna threw up a TikTok on Sunday that's got the world wondering. A video that shows her throwing some panties at a trash can with the caption, quote, "If I miss, I'm gay," end quote. She falls short of hitting the bin, and the camera cuts back to Madonna, who shrugs and walks away. On the face of it, it looks like she might be coming out as lesbian, or at the very least bi. But it's hard to say for sure. Madge has signaled she may be into women, not just with public comments, but with her actions too. She's locked lips with a few notable ladies over the course of her career, including Nicki Minaj, and more memorably, Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. Of course, Madonna has only been in relationships with men as far as people know anyway. She's been romantically linked to a ton of celebs over the years, including Dennis Rodman, Tupac, Michael Jackson, Vanilla Ice, and many others. Madonna was also married to Sean Penn, plus Guy Ritchie, with whom she had a kid. She's had children with other not-so-famous men, too, and has also adopted along the way. Lately, she's been dating younger men, but she has not confirmed a relationship with a woman. That might all change, though. Well, I'll take the bait. I'll fall for it. Madonna is relevant to me again for about 7 minutes.
I don't know. I think throwing away old panties come out as really a kind of diss to National Coming Out Day, if that's what she's doing.
Yeah.
We're a lot more flexible than I expected.
War pants.
I don't know. I kind of feel like she's like an honorary gay. And it's kind of like, okay, it doesn't even matter if she's really gay to us.
That's so sweet.
Right?
I want to know how many kids
I really don't care.
Collecting a zoo full of kids. Like she's had them with many men, and then she's adopting some more. I'm trying to take Michael Jackson's old job and has a carnival on board at the
I'm
house.
curious, in seriousness, does our community still love Madonna?
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a millennial. I grew up with Madonna in my life, and she was very important. Yeah, and she was very important to the gay community. However, I feel that since Madonna, a lot of people have taken over that throne who kind of do it better or do it different, or there's the controversy of Madonna appropriating a lot of culture, Black culture, Latino culture, gay culture, you name it, Japanese culture, you name it. Now you don't do that, and other people have become successful without having to do that. So, it's changed. So I don't know if she's revered, especially by Generation X. I don't think they know how important she was. I think they see her as the crazy TikTok lady. Not that I think she's crazy or anything.
I know for sure how important Madonna was. I mean, in her heyday, she was mine.
100%. She was mine, yeah.
South Beach and what, I've been to her concerts multiples of times. But today, if this is all she's got, I feel a little sad for Madonna.
It's just trying to stay relevant.
Yeah, but she's fine. She's fine. She's Madonna. She's rich. She's going to make her movie. She'll be fine.
Well, every LGBT outlet on this planet today is reporting on Madonna. So I guess
she's paid her gay dues.
A text from somebody that said
she's paid her
Madonna gay, and I was like, and I didn't even look at the clip, and I thought,
you didn't see the crusty panties yet.
What shocking thing could Madonna have done? That is shocking someone to text me this information.
The expert in all people that are gay.
Yeah.
I hope she's happy.
Well, on a lighter note, let's queer up education.
This is lighter.
Coming from Florida, really.
And pennies. Florida students protest Sasse appointment over LGBTQ issues. University of Florida students and faculty are protesting the possible naming of Republican Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska as the institution's next president. Protesters interrupted a question and answer session attended by Sasse on the school's campus on Monday, where they argued his opposition to same-sex marriage and his positions on LGBTQ+ issues made him unsuitable to serve as the school's leader. The students and faculty protesting Sasse say he has a documented history of embracing anti-LGBTQ+ messaging and criticizing the legislation and landmark judicial decisions on which modern LGBTQ+ rights hinge. A Change.org petition organized by Leka Rumala, a junior at University of Florida, urges the university's Board of Trustees to reject the recommendation by a search committee that Sasse be selected for the post. The petition argues that Sasse's political views, quote, do not align with the values that the students at the University of Florida hold, end quote. Sasse had issued a statement following the Supreme Court's 2015 ruling legalizing same-sex marriage in all 50 states that called the decision, quote, a disappointment, end quote. The statement said, quote, marriage brings a wife and husband together so their children can have a mom and dad. As a society, we need to celebrate marriage, end quote. More than 7 years later, preserving the sanctity of marriage is still listed as a top priority on Sasse's website. Well, you know, I think when we have people moving from government into the public sphere, for whether it's a corporation or to a university, they're finding out that, you know, you maybe represent a small sliver of your voters, but your constituents now are people that have a voice and can protest your career choice. So, I mean, I'm in favor of the students doing this.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's their school, they pay the tuition, and they pay his salary.
This plays right into Governor DeSantis's playbook too, because the State Board of Education is working to make it so that you don't have to have public hearings or any sunshine over the hiring of college and university presidents. So they just want to be able to pick and choose who they want to lead our higher education institutions. And much like you, politics and education should not intertwine.
Do you think that the students and the faculty have any power to actually make this change?
No.
Or it's just going to be, it's just going to happen?
It's going to happen, but it shows some resistance, which is very important, you know. You know, long live rebellious youth. From Iran to Florida, I think for me, the only thing that gives me hope for the world is the rebellious youth fighting. And here in Florida, they're really fighting for LGBT and, you know, abortion rights and the things that are, you know, at risk everywhere in the country, but especially here in Florida. So I think that maybe the next appointment might be a different one. I don't know. But it's important for them to know that they were resisted, that they have a resistance. You know?
I agree with all of that. The entire story is completely disgusting and despicable. Sasse is completely unqualified to be the president of the University of Florida. His entire historic political record makes him not qualified to be a president of a major university in the United States. This is not Coach Tuberville trying to go from Auburn University in Alabama to the Senate chambers in Washington. That was ridiculous enough, as he's proven again this week. It is really disgusting that this is going on. What is a surprise is a lot of people, a lot of viewers do not realize, while it says Florida, we're not all this crazy. And one of the places that we're not this crazy is Gainesville and Alachua County. It is a blue island. It is the only blue island in the Panhandle or North Florida, and it is blue. The University of Florida is not only one of the top institutions, public institutions in America, it is consistently rated as one of the top 5 universities in America. And when morons like Ron DeSantis gets his hands on the seat of the presidential chancellor's office at the University of Florida, he's going to change it. And that's why these reactions are coming not only from students, but faculty. Because many of us that follow support of our educational system in Florida never considered that when we would start this nonsense on Don't Say Gay, while it was easy to pick on 4th grade teachers, we didn't think it was as easy to pick on the presidential seat at the University of Florida. It clearly is. We are moving in the wrong direction, and Senator Ben Sasse from Nebraska was a horrible senator for America and certainly for the University of Florida.
Well, let's move on, and we will queer up the road to Stonewall. For National Coming Out Day, the most important person is you. Today is National Coming Out Day, which has been described as a celebration of coming out as an LGBTQ+ individual. While that process and decision can look as different as each individual making it, what tends to be unsurprisingly similar are the expectations for how friends and family outside of the LGBTQ+ community respond to being included in the process. Andy Juan, co-chair of the San Diego Queer Apamida Coalition, said, quote, one of the best things about National Coming Out Day is that you have your biological family, and maybe they weren't loving and accepting, but the LGBTQ community is your chosen family. These are folks who will love you unconditionally, regardless of who you are, how you identify, and embrace your identity and celebrating you, end quote. Apamita focuses on building community with Asian, Pacific Islander, Middle Eastern, and Desi American individuals. Andy Huynh and Amber St. James, co-founders of the drag production company Sisters of St. James Productions, talk with San Diego Union Tribune about their experiences of coming out as LGBTQ+, and the continued importance of National Coming Out Day on today, October 11th. During the interview, St. James says, quote, "It is a day in which we can make that choice of deciding to invite people in," end quote. And I am happy to say that you are all part of my chosen family.
Aww.
I'm curious to all of us, do we need a National Coming Out Day? Do we need it today?
I actually had a warm story today about National Coming Out Day. A friend of mine said that their neighbor invited them, they're a gay couple, there's a Pride event that's happening in Miami Shores for the first time ever. Plug for Miami Shores Pride event. And they knew that they were gay, and they said that their son had just come out as gay, and they wanted to invite them to attend the event with them, and they wanted to bring as many people around their son to support him for coming out. And so when I heard that story this morning, I kind of had the same thing where I was like, oh, everyone's going to post this National Coming Out Day, and we're all going to have to, reshare it. And I was like, it's very important. It's 100% important.
It's absolutely
Probably more than ever.
Yes, that's what I'm going to say. With everything going on, especially in our state, Coming Out Day is important because we're being silenced in so many ways, in the schools, in education, in being able to talk about your two moms or your two dads. That having an outside that they can't protest against because we're not gathering in one spot. And today is that day. I think it's very important.
Yeah.
The history is about telling stories, and these are our stories, and it's important that we tell them so that we can be part of history.
I think it's interesting because I think both can be true. National Coming Out Day always feels so incredibly old-fashioned to me. And when I think about why I feel that way, or what I think about that, is I just think it comes from an era that is previous today. It comes from a different time period that is different today. And then I think about many of the observations you've just made is that both can be true. That you don't have to have a single day that focuses on coming out, because it was a focus in the past to say, okay, one day of the year you can stick your head up out of the hole and say, this is what a community is. But we can celebrate and cherish the history of events like National Coming Out Day. And that can be true too. So I think we can do both. But I do think it's an interesting time that we're living in that it is so much better for community, and it is so much worse for community all at the same time.
It goes to that whole what is old is new again.
Yeah.
We kind of take things for granted, and then until they become an issue, and then all of a sudden we're reignited, and it makes sense. And I feel like it speaks to that.
And to that, just one more point before Tarek moves us on. Do you think an overwhelming majority of LGBT, let's say here in Wilton Manors, Miami, South Beach, etc., the different communities we represent, overwhelming number of LGBTQ community are celebrating today that it's National Coming Out Day?
I don't think most people even realize it's today. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I really didn't know until yesterday.
Me too.
Well, I think it's a marker for LGBTQ History Month. So the fact that it falls within LGBTQ History Month goes back to what you're saying, is it's about telling stories. So you may have come out 30 or 50 or 70 years ago, but
Carbon date.
But it's
Carbon
still
date.
good to tell the story today on October 11th.
I think
What
it's
did
the seat.
Jesus say when you told him?
Yeah.
I think it's that seat.
He loves me just as I was.
I think it's a good marker. I've had people, I come from a very small conservative community in Central America, era of Italian, very conservative. I've had a lot of youngsters from my community, including part of my family, who've come out to me during Pride Month. And they see me doing Pride stuff and being gay, and like, what, I'm gay too. And I'm like, yes, gay. So I feel like it's a great marker or a push or a motivator. I think the younger people think more about Pride. You're right. But it's good. Let's keep it. Let's keep it all.
We'll keep
we
it
deserve
all.
it.
All right, we deserve
Anyways, let's queer up politics. Surveys show electing LGBTQ plus people to local office is key to saving LGBTQ plus rights. During elections, people tend to focus on top of the ballot races, including those for the U.S. Senate, the House, or governorships. But in a political era marked by an onslaught of ferocious attacks against the LGBTQ plus community, reproductive rights, and fact-based education, many people are taking a second look at down-ballot races as a way to make an immediate local impact on the political landscape. The consequences of a lack of engagement in state and local politics are very clear. On the state house level, legislation targeting LGBTQ plus inclusion in curricula, trans girls in sports, and abortion rights has attracted national attention. But on the local level, a school board can set curricula, election oversight staff can promote election denial, and a city council can place strict limits on where unhoused people are allowed to live. Sean Malloy, Vice President of Political Programs at Victory Fund, an organization working to elect LGBTQ plus candidates, says, quote, local races can be easier to win than people think. They cost far less, decreasing barriers to entry, and can pay off in big ways. The same school board that suppresses LGBTQ plus books, for example, can become one that promotes an inclusive curriculum and pushes back on conservative activist groups such as Moms for Liberty, end quote. Well, I went to a political event like last week sometime, Thursday, and it was for all the Democratic local people for Miami in my district. And there was three queer people. And I was like, definitely voting for you. I mean, I'm definitely voting blue on anything, but it was very nice to see. And it felt like they would definitely, hold us, defend our rights a little bit more.
Jeff, you are the chairman for the National Task Force Dinner. Its principal goal is advocacy and propelling the political rights of LGBT. What do you think about this? That it's local, that it sits on the local.
Actually, one of the focuses the task force took in this election season was working on some school board elections on the west coast of Florida in smaller counties. So where we've talked about, we have a lot of great organizations here like SAVE and Equality Florida, of course, that are helping on some of the national. They made a conscious effort to focus on some of these down ballot races because of the importance, and we're seeing it in Florida with Don't Say Gay, of course, and what school boards can do to communities, to children. So they really made a conscious effort to go in and to help, again, where they don't have a Pride Center, they don't have a Wilton Manors downtown community to organize, queer people, LGBTQ youth, to help rally them, to help with these local elections that don't get a lot of attention, but they have the biggest impact on our lives.
I think we just do a bad job overall when it comes to politics and educating our youth and having them understand the difference that they can make on the local level. They just think of it as the nationals setting the stage, when in all fairness, it isn't. It's the local community setting the stage of what they find acceptable in their backyard. And if we don't stand up and if we don't run for office, and like it said in this article, it's not that hard to enter local politics. The barriers are much lower. You don't have to fundraise like you have to for a national position. So it's one of those things everyone needs to in some way be engaged. And if we can find people in our community willing to run for some of these positions, we can control, at least in our own backyard, what happens. And I think there was something I read earlier today that in many states, people go uncontested or no one chooses to run for a position. And then it's left up to the government basically to appoint somebody that they want because no one ran for that job.
This week I interviewed, there's a new documentary coming out. It's going to premiere November 5th at the Fort Lauderdale International Film Festival, and it's called The Halls of Power. And it's a documentary about focusing principally on Elijah Manning, the 23-year-old that ran for State House in this election, Black and queer, and young, 23, a Gen Zer. And in the interview, it was really clear of talking about what kind of interaction that he got, of the problems he had being young, strike one, the problems that he had being Black, strike two, the problems he had being queer, strike three, and how he fought that through. But one of the most shocking things that he said to me in the interview, which is what you just talked about, how did LGBT respond to you and embrace you? And were you satisfied? And overwhelmingly, the attitude and observation is, Al, it just didn't happen. And that was really sad to me, because that is a bellwether. That is the canary in the mine of saying what may be ahead for us on November 8th. I'm growing in my concern. We are this close. These state house races are districts that there's only 20 or 25, 30,000 votes in some instances. So they're relatively small in their ability to get to the state house. The Republicans are on the verge of supermajority in Florida. And if they take the House and the Senate in supermajority, they're going to do whatever they want, period, without any risk of a governor's override. So as a result, Charlie Crist is so incredibly important to us as LGBT. He's beyond important, because he is literally the firewall to fight what's going to happen next in the State House. And I just don't see us really frothing at the mouth of our desire to ensure that that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to just add on to what Glenn said. I don't think we do a good job of educating adults. You know, you said you went to an event for people that are in your district.
Yeah, for the first time in my life at 35.
Yes, I'm assuming you live in Janelle Perez's district.
Yeah.
You know, if you watch television, she's being attacked with terrible commercials.
Horrible,
and
yeah.
She's an
We talked
amazing
about that,
candidate.
yeah.
Do I see people here in Broward that are LGBTQ saying, we need to go help Janelle Perez? You know, I know friends of mine went to help Carlos Guillermo Smith. They went to Orlando this past weekend to help on his campaign. Why? Because we need to help support LGBTQ candidates, whether you live in their district or not.
Yeah.
And you know, one final note, we've got to go on to Glenn, but one final note, a lot of my friends suggest when I talk about this, of ringing the bell, this canary in the coal mine, they go, "Al, come on now, you're taking this too far and you're too myopic on it, etc." And then I turn and point, well, wait, let me provide you a real life example of the story that you just did in the local level. In fall of 2021, Miami-Dade County decided in a 7-1 vote that we are going to recognize LGBT History Month in the largest school district in Florida and one of the top 5 largest school districts in America. 7-1. There was no controversy at all. 12 months later, although it violated no laws, there was no issues that were going to come from the governor in his blustering threats, they move in terms of getting the kinds of supports happening in Broward County too, but in Dade County, and the vote completely flips in exactly the opposite direction. 7-1, we won't recognize LGBT History Month in Miami-Dade County schools. Is local elections, local involvements, school boards important? For LGBT, our life lives there. And there's going to be thousands and thousands of students right now in Miami-Dade County that are queer, that have denial of even acknowledging their existence. Not only because of Don't Say Gay on the state level, but because of Miami-Dade County on the local level in their own school board. And I don't see where the LGBTQ community is frothing at the mouth at what we're watching. Canary in the coal mine.
Okay, let's move on. Let's clear up the road to Stonewall. Atlanta Pride Parade was wild diversity of New South LGBTQ support. A sea of rainbow flags and a feeling of excitement filled Piedmont Park Saturday for the 2-day Atlanta Pride Festival. The event took a hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but now the event and the LGBTQ's pride in it are stronger than ever. Nearly every Democratic contender for Georgia's top offices took part Sunday in the Atlanta Pride Festival, which has steadily transformed from an event largely ignored by the state's leading liberal politicians to a must-attend on the campaign trail. U.S. Senators John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock sat side by side in a pink convertible. Gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams waved a purple fan as she marched through the cheering parade route. Jen Jordan, her party's nominee for Attorney General, rode atop a neon Jeep festooned with a giant peach. No Republican candidates for statewide office were featured in the parade, which drew a record-setting crowd. For Democrats, the festivities offered a chance to showcase their support for LGBTQ rights before a bloc of voters that is flexing its political and financial muscle ahead of a midterm election that could determine control of the U.S. Senate. Though gay rights issues have taken a back seat to other factors on the campaign trail, including the Supreme Court ruling that triggered Georgia's anti-abortion restrictions and economic concerns about rising prices, they remain an undercurrent in the election. I love Stacey Abrams,
Me too.
you know, and the fact that they were all out there at Pride, you know, but it goes back to our previous story. How does she motivate all those people to go out and vote? You know, if they all go out and vote, she could win. And then, you know, it will save a state that's gone so far to the right that we need to sort of bring it back to center. So I think it's great that they were all there and they're raising awareness about their existence, you know, but is that enough?
Well, it's great that Pride came back to Atlanta. I mean, first of all, just to have that exposure and to now have that place where they can, you know, go and talk and be seen is good. Yeah. And it looked like a lot of fun. I had friends that were there posting pictures.
There were a lot of people from here that went up this weekend. We noticed.
Yeah, I've been to Atlanta Pride. It's a fun festival. It finally returns. You know, I have two quick notes about what is going on in Atlanta. First, I think it's interesting that all of the Democrats show up. What is it about? What does that signal to the LGBTQ community? 100% of all of the blue candidates show up. 0 of the red candidates show up. Wouldn't you automatically go, oh, you know, I better get to the polls. I better get to the November 8 election. I better do my absentee ballot, which, by the way, today is your last day to do that. I better do this because what they're telling me is all of these people support me and my life, and none of these people support me or my life. And in fact, want to push me back into the closet. Why doesn't that immediately go, Al, are you dumb? Why aren't you voting? So why are we having to ask and remind over and over again? You know who told me this loud and clear? Saturday, I went to the LGBT Get Out the Vote Center on Walton Drive. It opened. Val Demings opened it. Her message was not, we want you to vote, not DeSantis is horrible, not Rubio's terrible. Her message was, if we vote, we win. If we get out there, we win. She already knows what I think I know and what probably all of us at the table knows. We have no chance of winning if we don't get out. She's not talking to anyone other than LGBTQ community. If you don't come out, we are not going to win. Broward County has to increase their turnout by 2% to win. We win the governor's house, we win the Senate seat if we do. But it's highly in doubt, which is why the Senate candidate has to say, if you turn out, if you show up, we win. That's exactly what we just watched in Atlanta. And all of the Democrats did that. I'm showing up for you to tell you, you better show up. None of the Republicans did it. And by the way, you know, one of the candidates that didn't show up, I'm shocked. Herschel Walker didn't show up at the Atlanta Pride Parade. Some of the most despicable news that we have seen over the last 5 days ever in, I would argue, in history, of all of the abortions and the forced abortions and the violence and the undocumented children and is going to be the representative of the state of Georgia over the pastor from Martin Luther King's church. Oh my goodness. Why didn't he show up for Pride? Well, his son, Christian Walker, who's his gay son, who he allegedly abused. This is Christian's words, said in Twitter on Saturday, in his Twitter account about his father, wear a condom, damn. That's all he said. So now I have no agreement with Christian Walker on any other words he's ever had come out of his mouth except those. Because it's Herschel Walker, and this is what we're facing. And you know the only person that makes this even worse, shockingly? You know who's there today campaigning for Herschel Walker? Florida Senator Rick Scott, saying, this is our guy. Wow.
They just want to maintain the status quo. They don't have any other interest than protecting their assets.
It's not keeping the status quo. They're actually trying to turn it even further.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's about getting the youth to vote.
Would somebody please tell me where the red alert button is at this table? I've got to find it.
I think we should also realize what an iconic moment is. We forget it's Senator Raphael Warnock is a reverend from a black church, and the fact that we had some someone representing a Black church walking in a pride parade who is taking on our community and supporting our community at the risk of his campaign, because there are still a lot of people in Black churches that do not support the LGBTQ community.
right.
He stood up and walked in the pride parade.
You know, and last thought, because we do have to move on. Jeff, that one observation, how could someone in LGBT South Florida not get to the polls November 8th and say thank you for that?
Yeah.
And here's how I vote. How can they? How can you? I don't understand you if you don't vote on November 8th. Next, let's queer up South Florida and Florida. The Outshine Film Festival will bring the most important LGBTQ cultural event. Outshine is South Florida's premier showcase for LGBTQ plus films, producing a large-scale festival in Miami in April and Fort Lauderdale in October. Outshine Fort Lauderdale is a critically acclaimed event based in the world-renowned South Florida city of Fort Lauderdale. The 13th Fort Lauderdale Festival will begin this Thursday, October 13th, with its opening night gala at the NSU Art Museum and ends on October 23rd. This time, the event will screen movies in both in-person and virtual models. Outshine is important for the LGBTQ plus community, as it not only helps in spreading awareness, but also offers a sense of community, togetherness, acceptance, and appreciation to the artists from the community spread all across the world. And all of this is done through entertainment. The film festival selects a few amazing and groundbreaking international and culturally diverse films, videos, and other media that offer historical and contemporary perspectives on the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender experience. The festival has grown from a 3-day event in which 25 films were presented to the current format of a 10-day event with 65 films. The audience will be able to watch many world premieres, North American premieres, and East Coast premieres in the show. Awards and prizes will also be given to the films, which will win in different categories set by the festival organizers. Well, I'm really excited about, I didn't realize that we were going to show that messaging, but I'm really excited about the film festival. This Thursday, as the film festival opens at the Art Museum, and its opening film, Queer News Tonight will be set up, and we're going to do a remote broadcast right on site at the film festival, and we're going to be doing this show at the film festival. We'll stay away from politics, so Al shuts up completely, and we're going to celebrate our community through film.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of eye candy on that screen.
Yes, there is. Lots of stars coming too from films. All right, well,
next,
let's start with
next. We're proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, and we're proud that Tai can read the teleprompter. The world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we're broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
This is Mo Laredo, local law enforcement in South Florida, and Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
Well, we finished tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
In LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up trans rights. From LGBTQ plus news partner Pink News and writer Patrick Kelleher, Elon Musk blamed communists for turning trans daughter against him. The Tesla tycoon opened up about his fraught relationship with his teenage daughter, who filed for a name change in Los Angeles in April. At the time, Elon Musk's daughter requested that the gender marker on her birth certificate be changed. She also said she wanted to change her name as she did not wish to be related to my biological father in any way, shape, or form, end quote. In an interview with the Financial Times, Musk blamed his difficult relationship with his trans daughter on left-wing elite schools and universities in the United States. Read more at pinknews.co.uk.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news, let's queer up travel. From LGBTQ plus news partner Out Traveler and writer Jacob Anderson Minchell. Miami's South Beach colorful guard shacks reflect the spirit of South Florida. A new book by photographer Tommy Quack, Lifeguard Towers, Miami, celebrates Miami Beach's iconic guard shacks as designed by queer architect William Lane. Out Traveler spoke to Lane and shared some images of the whimsical guard towers in the fall 2022 print issue. Lane cites a mix of influences and inspirations for the towers, which are both utilitarian surveillance structures and, quote, activators of public space, in this case, the beach. They are anthropomorphic and provide the shoreline with a unique formation of characters that are an expression of the identity and culture of the region. You can read more at outtraveler.com.
LGBTQ 1 Minute News. Let's queer up sports. From LGBTQ plus news partner, The Fight magazine. Anthony Bowens becomes the first openly gay wrestler to win an all-elite wrestling championship. As per the report by Instinct magazine, Anthony Bowens and Max Caster, a tag team in AEW, All Elite Wrestling, known as The Acclaimed, won the championship for the first time. This recent victory made Bowens the first openly gay wrestler to win an AEW championship. Bowens posted a heartfelt message after their victory, stating, quote, "I'm going to take a second to speak on something that I really don't talk much about in front of a camera. I never thought I would be able to live my dream because there was a time when I was very confused and I didn't know how to accept myself. But I fought through that and now I cry because I'm a champion," end quote. Read more at thefightmag.com.
LGBTQ plus news, let's queer up Stonewall. Oh, crap, I ruined my teleprompter.
The LGBTQ plus news partner, Lavender Magazine, and writer Terence Grieg. Looking back at 40 years of the Gay Games for LGBTQ History Month. The Olympic-esque international multi-sport and cultural event known as the Gay Games began in Mexico City on October 12, 1968. That was when Tom Waddle, a proud member of the U.S. Olympic decathlon team, paraded into Estudianto Olimpico Universitario, there we go, I'll get it, that's not my story, as part of the opening ceremony for the Games of the 19th Olympiad. Waddle kept decathlon training even after being drafted into the U.S. Army the following year and landing in Washington, D.C. as part of an international medical program. Eventually, he was included as a member of the U.S. Olympic decathlon team. The Gay Games kept going, manifesting every 4 years. Gay Games 11 is going to be held in Hong Kong in 2023. Read more at lavendermagazine.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up travel. From LGBTQ plus news partner Passport Magazine and writer Keith Langston. Into the woods as we explore LGBTQ camping and RVing. While it's true that the queer community has had a massive impact on many of the world's great metropolises, it's important for the LGBTQ plus community to feel comfortable and welcomed in natural spaces, because finding a place in the world is an important part of well-being. Fortunately, the camping and RVing industries are focusing on increasing their diversity and providing safe and comfortable access to the outdoors for LGBTQ people. Passport Magazine talked to Toby O'Rourke of Campgrounds of America and Rachel Hesteline of Trader International on this. They talk about the future in terms of the LGBTQ plus camping and RVing. Read more at passportmagazine.com.
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up lesbian culture. From LGBTQ plus news partner, advocate, and writer Christopher Wiggins. Conservative TV anchor has on-air meltdown over lesbian Velma.
Well, you see that? Our beloved Scooby-Doo has gone woke. Velma has come out as LGBTQ. I'm guessing she's the L, but she may be the B. I don't know. Perhaps the T would mean she's been a dude all along, all this time, right? I'm not sure. Maybe it's the Q. Truth be told, I can't really tell the difference between most of the letters. By the way, Velma, she's gay now? Don't worry to my straight male friends. Daphne, she's still straight as far as we can see. And as far as I can see, by the way, HBO Max, is Fred straight? I mean, if Velma is lesbian, I can see Fred being gay. I don't know, Scooby, what do you think, Fred? Is he gay?
During a Wednesday segment of his Newsmax show, The Balance, Eric Bolling complained about the development that the Velma in the fictional television series Scooby-Doo has come out as a lesbian in the upcoming film remake of the decades-old series. Media Matters for America senior researcher Jason Campbell posted a clip from the show to Twitter. He wrote, quote, "While throwing a tantrum about a cartoon character, Newsmax's Eric Bolling said, quote, it always confuses me, by the way, folks, when a man decides he's a woman, becomes a woman, then sleeps with women. I mean, why don't you stay a man?" Eric Bolling is clearly not able to digest this development. Read more at theadvocate.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up health. From LGBTQ plus news partner LGBTQ Nation and writer John Russell. Kingpins identified in massive counterfeit HIV medication scheme. Gilead Sciences has identified 2 men as kingpins in an alleged scheme to supply counterfeit HIV medication to U.S. pharmacies. In a court document unsealed last week, Lazaro Roberto Hernandez and Armando Herrera were among dozens of defendants named in the biopharmaceutical company's ongoing civil lawsuit aimed at stopping the alleged counterfeit distribution operation. The company said in a statement, quote, Gilead's ongoing investigation reveals that these 2 kingpins directed the initial sale of the counterfeits through suppliers created solely to sell counterfeit medications, end quote. As Plus reported in July, prosecutors allege that between 2019 and 2021, Hernandez and his co-conspirators established licensed wholesale drug distribution companies to sell their altered HIV drugs at a steep discount. Read more at lgbtqnation.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up the worldview. From LGBTQ plus news partner Pink News and writer Chantel Bilson. Same-sex couple in China is using a legal loophole to get married over Zoom in Utah. Since last year, the Rest of the World magazine estimates around 200 couples from China and Hong Kong have tied the knot via Zoom in Provo, Utah, the county of Provo in Utah. Same-sex marriage has been made possible in Utah as it has no residency or citizenship requirements for marriage license. And Provo allows online international marriages. In Utah, same-sex unions have been recognized since 2014. But in China, where homosexuality was only decriminalized in 1997, same-sex marriage remains illegal. Same-sex unions are illegal in Hong Kong, although the city-state recognizes overseas marriage for spousal benefits, such as tax purposes, dependent visas, and housing, etc. Same-sex couples from China are using this legal loophole to get married. Read more at pinknews.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up trans rights. From LGBTQ plus news partner Pop Sugar and writer Sabine Bowman. Dwayne Wade explains why he turned off comments on trans daughter Zaya's social media. It's no secret that social media can take a toll on a person's mental health, and that one of the reasons why Dwayne Wade made the decision to turn off comments on his 15-year-old daughter Zaya's Wade's social media accounts. Wade revealed in a recent interview with Today that he and his wife Union talked through their decision with Zaya. The former NBA star went on to acknowledge that social media space is even more complex for Zaya, who came out as transgender in 2019. Wade and Union have frequently spoken out about LGBTQ plus rights since Zaya came out. Read more at popsugar.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up politics. From LGBTQ plus news partner Queerty and writer Graham Gremore. Marco Rubio homophobic attack ad against angry black woman, Val Demings.
And I believe
100%. That's how often radical Val Demings votes with Nancy Pelosi. Demings voted with Pelosi to allow radical abortions even at the moment of birth. Demings joined Pelosi to give $1 billion in stimulus checks to convicted criminals and illegal immigrants. Demings even voted to allow transgender youth sports and teaching radical gender identity without parental consent. Pelosi puppet Val Demings, 100% wrong for Florida.
I'm Marco Rubio, and I approved this message.
Of course you do.
Well, Marco Rubio just released a vile attack against Val Demings, leaning into the angry black woman narrative by setting Demings against an ominous dark backdrop with thunder and lightning crackling while painting her out to seem like a radical leftist, constantly screaming about things like trans athletes and gender identity. The ad comes 2 weeks after a new civics poll found that Demings is only 2 points behind Rubio. Demings has also been outpacing Rubio regarding fundraising, bringing in over $47 million in campaign donations, compared to his $29 million. Having Demings in the U.S. Senate would not only be a victory for Democrats, but it would also be a victory for LGBTQ people. Read more at Queerty.com. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show. Is our community important to you?
Then help us by liking and subscribing. Ring the bell for updates. Share this news with your friends and family.
Host this broadcast in the many groups of which you are a member. Tonight's stories about community deserve the attention of your family and friends.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support.
if our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound, and that is the passion of the Happening Out television network and Queer News Tonight. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Dr. Tai Houser, Jeff Oliverio, Tarek Turjman, and Glen Weinzimer, we will see you daily at 8 p.m.
Good night.
Good night.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out television network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure